Hello, happy holidays. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Elsie Godwin, and this is Reviews on the Couch. On Reviews on the Couch, we talk about movies, how they made us feel, and also pick very important lessons from the storyline and dissect them as to how it affects you and I. On this episode, we're discussing an American TV series titled Ginny and Georgia. It was created by Sarah Lampert, had its first season released on Netflix on the 24th of February 2021. Ginny and Georgia follows a 15-year-old Ginny and her 30-year-old mother, Georgia, in a new town where Georgia decides to settle down with her daughter Ginny and of course her son to give them a life better than what she had. Now, to discuss this movie and how it made us feel, and more importantly the issues raised, I've got two amazing women with me. I've got Fausiat Bakare-Balogun. Fausiat is the founder of Health Communicators, a public health specialist, a mom, and of course a movie buff. And I also have Nneoma Effanga. Nneoma is an image behavior consultant and a mother of four. They'll be joining me to discuss Ginny and Georgia right after this. Thank you so much for joining me, Fausiat and Nneoma. I mean, you two were very important for me to have because you two are parents. I'm not a parent, but watching Ginny and Georgia gave me a lot of vibes from my childhood as well. Understanding things that you probably never understood when your parents would tell you, "Oh, it is hard," and this. But for the record, Nneoma has not seen the movie, but she has to be here based on her capacity as an image and behavioral person. And Fausiat has seen the movie. So let's start with Fausiat. When you saw it, the series actually, how did it make you feel?
I mean, it was such an epic movie. It was fun to watch. The first scene showed Ginny in a school, and just in the first scene, we had an understanding of how much job the mother has done educating her child on sexual education. I mean, the first scene showed a confrontation with a boy in a school, and she started talking about how she was given the full sexual education at age 7. And not just that kind of sexual education where you say, okay, when you put copper inside cucumber, you now form a ring and all of that. She dived in straight to how her mother gave her a full comprehensive sexual education and how she knows what she's doing, how she was fully brought up and all of that. So the series was just fantastic. Really. It was fun, it was educational, it had some morishirishi, of course, but then it was exciting, yeah.
Okay. So I believe Nneoma she's a mother of four, actually. So when it comes to sexual education, I know we weren't prepared for this, but it comes up anyway. When would you say it's the earliest to start having that conversation in details, not just saying it's called the penis, it's called the vagina or something? When do you get to have that hard talk with them as a mother?
Well, sexual education is something that is an ongoing process. So it's something that it's a training that any child can have from beginning from the ages of 18 months. I know that might be a little, or some people might be a little bit young, but 18 months to 18 years, you can have a conversation with any child concerning sexual education. Now, however, sexual education is age appropriate. Let me repeat that. Sex education should be age appropriate. That is what you're going to tell an 18-month-old child is totally different from the conversation you're going to be having with an 18-year-old. Those are two different conversations because the child can only understand to the level of maturity per time. So I can't be telling an 18-month-old child about vagina and the other one, the penis, when they don't. But what I can do is to introduce privacy, introduce that there is something called privacy for any individual. So there are things I'm going to tell them, like, can you wear your clothes? Oh, no, you don't run around naked or things like that. Then gradually, when, from age to age, there are things that you can actually teach them to tell them, okay, this is my body and no one has the right to touch my body. There are private parts that you should cover up, that should be covered up. And there are sensitive parts that are also not to be touched. So explaining it gradually, they may not have the full understanding, but they know that no one should go there, or no one should touch this, or no one should do this or that to you. As they get older and more matured and start asking questions as well, like, what does this mean, or what does that mean? Then you can begin to now explain. A 10-year-old that can have that conversation, an 8-year-old that can tell them that that these are the things that are expected. You should keep it safe. You should keep it guarded. If someone does something to you that you are not comfortable with, then you should tell mommy or you should tell daddy. Anything at all, they have to, and you also have to be able to build trust with them so that if they're going through anything at all, they are able to tell you, and you're not paranoid that, that XYZ is going to happen. So sometimes it might just be an innocent thing going on. You need to determine what exactly is going on and tackle it accordingly and not by your fears. Because coming from a place of fear can actually begin to foster what you are afraid of. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes.
I mean,
And if you've seen Ginny and Georgia as well, I think that was something Georgia tried to do for the daughter. That's creating that trust whereby she can tell her when she's had sex, when she took some drugs with the friend, and she did her best to make that happen. But sometimes it seems like your best is just not enough to go the way it's supposed to go, right? But I was watching a content on YouTube talking about trust, and like you said, sexual education has to be age appropriate as well. But in that conversation on a certain platform, the anchor was talking about a friend of hers who lost her virginity without even understanding what it was or how it was to lose the virginity. So she had the idea that you have to be a virgin. But up until the point where she got entangled with a guy and had sex, she still did not understand that was the process of losing a virginity. She just thought, oh, I'm just supposed to not lose my virginity. She did not understand that this is the process to get to that point. So in making sure that it is age appropriate, when do you begin to actually tell them the hard truths? Because I know this is one of the problems we have in this part of the world. We don't like to have these conversations, and I think it's just hard globally for a parent to sit down to talk to their children about sex. But Fausiat, I mean, you work in that space. How do we get it right?
I mean, just to get insights from the show, we saw a situation where Georgia, the mom who is barely an adult herself, had this relationship, created this very open door relationship with her daughter, who is 15 years old, and tried to educate her. She tried her best to educate her on how to have proper LD relationship with the opposite sex. We saw a situation where even when they will clearly show her face when she's having that conversation that she's not so comfortable with that conversation. But then looking at her own experience, she got pregnant at age 15. She had to give birth. She had to train that child, even as a teenager herself. She doesn't want a situation where our daughter goes through the same thing. So even as uncomfortable as that sexual conversation can be for a mom, she educated her daughter about the truth when it comes to sexual education. What does it mean to have sex? What does it mean to get pregnant? What does it mean to protect yourself, to be knowledgeable about contraceptives? I mean, at age 15, she took a child at the first sight of anything sexual about her daughter. She took her daughter to a gynecologist and have her be on pills. That's birth control pills. When her daughter started having relationships, started going on a date, I mean, her first date, she took her daughter to that GP and said, okay, now anything can happen at any point and you might start having sex. And they placed her daughter on pills with her consent, of course. Meanwhile, even as open as that relationship is, even as clear cut as it is, like, you can come to me anytime, tell me everything, tell me anything. I won't judge you. I won't be oppressive and aggressive. We'll still see all the mistake Ginny made. In fact, she had her first sex right in her mother's home, under her mother's umbrella, without her knowing, even as open. So let's just imagine a situation where you're not having that conversation at all. I mean, that first sex she had right in her mother's home, she would be pregnant. And she was knowledgeable up to the point where after that first sex, she went to the clinic and asked to get the pill you take after you've
Morning
had
after
sex and you
pill.
don't want to get pregnant. Morning after pill. She went to get that pill. We saw that scene where she went to buy the pills and the pharmacist was so judgmental, like, what are you doing here? You're so young. And she stood up for herself and like, are you going to give me or not? Like, you can't judge me. I'm here already. Tell it for me. So she was that educated. But this thing is not always so easy. Women have to be intentional about this thing. You have to want to know. As long as you're like, okay, I'm going to get pregnant, I'm going to start giving birth, you have to want to know about how to educate that child or the children about healthy sexual relationship and healthy sexual education. So this knowledge is intentional.
So in the movie or in the series, I saw a lot of projecting. So I understand that Ginny Georgia was trying to protect Ginny, but protecting her as well, she was seeing herself in her daughter and doing a lot of that.
True.
And which is
Mm-hmm.
why I insisted that I had someone like Nneoma to come and have this conversation. So, in being a parent, how would you advise, or what are the best practices? It would be nice if you can summarize them as brief as possible, right? What are the best practices to ensure that you are not projecting when it comes to raising your
Parenting.
son, your
Mm-hmm.
daughter? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the first things I would suggest that the parent does is that is this: deal with your own fears, or they will deal with you. It's just as simple as that. A lot of people project what they've been through because they have not dealt with it in its entirety. And most of the time, you find out that what they fear the most ultimately happens.
Is what happens. Mm-hmm.
Is what will happen eventually.
Sure.
You don't want a situation whereby what you're trying to run away from, it ultimately happens. You want to operate from a place of authority and information, which is very key. So whatever information you're giving children, you're not giving them based on what you've been through. Yes, you may be able to explain your own experience at some point. You can be vulnerable with your children, telling them, this was where I was at some point in my life. But it doesn't have to be your own story. You can decide, or you can choose to create your own reality through the decisions that you're making today. So when you tell them, or you give them the information about how to protect themselves from unwanted sex, how to keep themselves chaste. I know that these are norms that are not very popular in today's world. So everyone wants to be careful or to be politically correct. But I still strongly believe in old values, which is being able to control yourself. And that's why when I'm having a conversation with children about sex, I tell them that this is a decision that they have to be ready to make. Because for every decision, every action that they take, there are consequences. If you choose to have sex today, the possibilities that can come out is that somebody, if there's an interaction, if the sperm and the egg, so this is sex education right there. What is the process of having sex? When two consenting adults come together to consummate, they're going to have sex. That means the penis is going to get into the vagina of a woman. And in that process, what is called sperm cells are released in order to fertilize the egg of the woman. And this connection causes a fertilization that allows the baby to begin the process of being formed and the different stages of forming. Now, it is someone that is ready to take care of a child that should be ready to go through that process. And if you are 15, if you are 12, if you're 3, you have other responsibilities that are paramount now, because there's time for everything. So if you decide that this is what you want to do now, then you have to be ready for if a situation happens where the person involved, you as a girl, becomes pregnant, or you as a boy impregnates a girl. So the realities, I'm giving you information. I'm not talking based on fear. Oh, my child is going to get someone pregnant, or my child is going to get pregnant. I'm giving you information so you can process it and know, am I ready? Do I have the capacity right now to leave school? Do I want to leave school? No. Do I want to take care? Am I ready to take care and be responsible for another human being? No. Do I want to wake up at night and do everything that I need to do to make sure that that child is well taken care of and attended to? Those are the questions that you're going to be asking. So that when you find yourself in such a situation and you think about all the implications of that decision you're about to make, it might be enough to just tell you, you know what, hold on a little on this situation. Delayed gratification, that's how they say it. So delayed gratification doesn't mean that in the near future, I'm not going to experience this. It's just that you have to experience it when you are ready for all of the consequences that are going to come through at the end of the day. Guess what? One of the things I tell myself is that, Nneoma, you're not always going to be around these children. As much as I would want to be with them all the time, I cannot be with them all the time. So in those moments when they are by themselves, what is the information that they can empower themselves to be able to make life choices for themselves without me being there? That's where parenting comes in. So you must be able to do your due diligence as a parent by informing. And also, the next thing I was going to say is be an example. As much as possible, I try to be the example that and my children feel free to be able to ask me questions or hold me accountable. So, for example, if I tell them, you need to read your book, sometimes they come, they see me on my laptop, they see me with my phone. What are you doing? I said, I'm just trying to finish up with my assignment. Can you go and see it? So they see that I'm actually going to school, or I'm actually taking a course, or I'm actually doing homework. So that tomorrow when I tell you, have you done your homework? I can't watch TV. And I use that opportunity to tell them, I can't watch TV because I'm busy. I have to finish this. I have to prepare. So if they don't see you as the example, when you say one thing and you're doing something completely opposite, it's going to inform them differently. So as much as possible, try to be the example that they can see.
The truth about parenting in this 21st century is our job is so much harder, because as you're trying to give them information by yourself,
Absolutely.
you would be they are getting a lot of information from other places. They are getting online, they are getting from their friends, they are getting, so they are so distracted. So parenting in this 21st century is so you just have to be very intentional, and it's so technical. We saw all of that play out in this show with Ginny and Georgia, yeah. As Georgia is, the mom is feeding her an information, the right information that she feels is right, even though she was projecting her fears on her as well. We saw her being pressurized as the peer pressure she faced in school, with trying to concede to opinions of her friends and all of that. So when it comes to all this education, intentional education in this 21st century, is just we have to like be on our game, on our first game, and we also have to know that we also have to project it that okay, this child is going to make mistakes, but then what kind of mistake is she going to make? Is this some that we can prevent? Are those mistakes some things that are not threatening? So we just have to try. That's just what I'm saying. Let's just try our best, because as we keep saying the right things, we keep doing the right things, we keep setting examples. There are so many factors that influence parenting in this 21st century, and it really plays out in that show.
It's really different in the 20th, in the 21st century parenting, and like they say, you can't use 18th century methods to deal with 21st century issues.
Truth.
But where I still stand on is that there's just some fundamental principles that are universal, whether in the 18th that are just knowing what you want per time. It's important that that child knows, what do you want per time? Do you want to be a mommy now? Questions like that. Do you want to be a daddy now? Oh, no. So
are you ready to raise another child?
Okay, I want to go to school. Okay, I want to. Do you want to go? So the other day we went to buy groceries, and they said, "Oh wow, that's a lot of food." I said, "That's because you guys eat a lot." Well, guess what? If you're going to be a daddy tomorrow, you're going to be doing this for somebody else. So that sinks into their mind to say, "Oh my goodness!" So that means I have to work really hard. I have to, so you're already thinking.
I just remember this part of the show where they were driving in the car and Ginny was playing that song. Goni came in and she called me red-handed with a 7-year-old son at the back. And it was even the 15-year-old daughter that was saying, "Mom, this is not age appropriate. Like, we have a 7-year-old boy at the back." And she turned back. The mother turned back now and asked the son, "Do you know what this song is about?" And the boy was like, "Oh yeah, it's about adults doing it on the bathroom floor and getting caught." And so for a 7-year-old boy, he understood that song perfectly. So it's just telling us that parenting these days, you have to know that whatever you're not telling that child, he or she already knows about it from one point or one place or the other.
So you just have to ensure that you correct the information.
Exactly. Like, you come first. You want to put that education right in front of them before they get it somewhere else, the right ones. So at every point when they're getting other information, you're like, okay, I remember what my mom said. This is what my mom said. This is
so I want us to really wrap up. I have just one question for you two. So Fausiat, my question is going back to the part where the mother took the 15-year-old daughter to the GP for family planning, for contraceptive and all that, because she suspected that she's still having sex. So really, that's the field you work. When is the right time to take a girl child or to start talking to your daughter about contraceptives and responsible sex? Because from this conversation, we're saying give them the right information, let them understand how these things happen, and hope and pray to God that they make the right decisions at the end of the day,
very
right?
true.
So, but while you're hoping and believing that they will make the right decisions, when do you put your foot on the ground to say, I'm putting you on contraceptive, or you should know about this and this contraceptive?
Okay, so I think I would want to align with what Georgia did. She started training a child since age 7 or even before that about sexual education. And like Nneoma said, there's age appropriate sexual education. So if you build that process strategically, it won't be hard at age 15 or 16 to educate your child properly about contraceptives. I mean, we have a group filled with girls. We call it with adolescent girls that I'm in charge of managing. And I know the kind of questions those girls ask. They are real life questions about sex. So the moment you suspect your child is dating and she wants to start having boyfriend or something, wants to start, you need to bring up that conversation, contraceptives conversation. Educate your child to all the appropriate methods of contraceptives out there. And by the time she then take her to a GP. Yes, GP are experts in having that education, even if you're not comfortable with that education about that conversation with your child. They can help you educate your child, and your child will decide, okay, this is the method I want to go for, I want to adopt. It's all about informed choices. You can't push things on your word, they will rebel. But then if you educate them properly on this holistic sexual education, they would make the right, we hope that they make the right choices when the time comes. Yeah.
So, my question to you will really be about contentment, and I hope you can make it as brief as possible. How do you teach your children contentment? Because when they go out there, they meet different families with different realities, and they understand things from different perspectives as well. Our orientations are different. So you know that in your family, you have XYZ amount of money to enjoy, but you go to school and see someone who has X amount of money to spend, and their realities are different, their understanding. So how do you train, or how do you have that conversation? Not exactly train. What sort of conversation should you have with your child to make them understand their own reality and be contented in it, while of course they aim for better things in their life?
Okay, so one of the things that I say, Elsie, is there is the power of no. No does not mean that you've been rejected. No might just mean that it's not time for this to happen, or you're not ready for this to happen. So when they hear mommy say no about certain things, or when people tell them no, they don't see it, or they are beginning to learn that it doesn't mean that you've been rejected or you have been denied something. It may just mean that this thing, you're not ready for it, or it's not yet time. And that's what I try to tell them, because I like I said earlier, I try to be the example in all that I do. So if I'm telling them no, I'm also telling myself no. And we say it's okay for us not to have something. I know that I remember a couple of times that we go for birthday parties, and then they say, oh, I didn't get a birthday party pack, for example. And I said, what was the reason why we came in the first place? And then they have to answer, to celebrate with the celebrants. I said, that is more important than receiving a pack, because it's not all the time. What if the person planned for 20 people and 50 people showed up? What are you going to do? And then you were not amongst the 20 that got. Does that mean that you didn't have fun? You didn't do other things that made it an amazing experience for you? And that's what life is. Life does not present you with everything that you want per time. But understanding that it's okay for me not to have this now, because, hey, if I check it, if I don't have it, am I still okay? Yeah, so life goes on. If I have it, what changes? Okay, I might be able to do this and that, or can I live? Can I continue to live without this? Yes. So why not? So these are values that you are beginning to create for the child, realities that you're going to begin to create for the child, for the situations that may happen when you're not there. What if you're not there to always provide for their needs? If they don't learn how to be content or to manage themselves, then every situation they're going to always look for something to cover it up. And if they can't, then they might even do anything to be able to deal with that situation. So you see a child that you have to do anything, including stealing? No. So these are values that I would want to always, and it's not just my kids. When people, I always have children, whether they're my biological children or not, around me. So these are learning and teaching moments that I share with them. I say, okay, we don't have this. What else? There's always a way out. Can we stay without it? Yes. Okay, if we can't, what else can we do to replace the situation? So you're teaching the child to be dynamic, to be flexible with situations and circumstances that they may find themselves in at any point in time. Because guess what? Again, like I say, you will not always be with them. You will not always be around them. So inform them, empower them to be able to make life choices that will help them to continue to push the boundaries in life and to continue to make progress in spite of challenges.
Thank you so much. And I think that's where we'll end this conversation. We can go on and on when it comes to parenting and the possibilities and even the lessons that Ginny and Georgia actually try to push out there. I think it's an amazing series. But I'll just say thank you to you guys for your time. And I hope that we'll get to have this sort of conversation. Maybe pick them one after the other and then extend them properly for people to understand better. All right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out Ginny and Georgia on Netflix. It is an interesting series to watch. There are obvious and subtle lessons for everyone in this series, so check it out with your friends, with your family, and have conversations around it. If there is any movie or series or TV show you want us to talk about, kindly send me an email. My details are in the description box below. Also, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the box below and also click on the bell button so you get notified each time there is a content. Till I come your way again or till another video, my name is Elsie Godwin. Do enjoy yourself.